Up next, we have LYNC.
Hi, I'm Parth.
Hi, and I'm Kate, and we're here with our teammates, Casey, Deshar, and Dave.
And we're
LYNC. 93% of students in Detroit public schools are not proficient in reading. In addition, 49 schools in Detroit public schools are at risk of closing at the end of the 2018 school year. Tutoring organizations are working across the city to bridge the gap between what is happening in schools by providing after-school tutoring services to students. Meet Charles Johns, the Director of Youth and Education at MAC Development in Detroit. Charles is deeply committed to the community of Detroit and the students that he works with to make sure that they are achieving at the highest levels possible. However, in an interview with Charles, he told me that he is not able to meet the number of students that he wants to because he is lacking access to tutors to tutor in his organization. He has a wait list for students because he doesn't have the tutors that he needs. We talked to many organizations that are facing similar problems. They want to help students and have an impact on students, but they don't have the tutors to make that happen. On the other side, we talked with tutors who are looking to be matched with organizations. And what we found is they're having trouble finding the organizations to be partnered with. We talked to one teaching candidate at Eastern Michigan University who said if he was not in the right class at the right time with the right professor, he would not have been matched with his organization to make the impact on students that he wanted to have. Given this, we are working to connect two different entities, tutoring organizations and tutors, through a platform called LYNC. This platform will ultimately impact students and families across Detroit through connecting the two entities of tutoring organizations and tutors.
So essentially, we are a web-based platform, and if you go at the top where it says Get Linked, it'll direct you to a page that looks like this. As we said, our two demographics are tutors and tutoring organizations. Now say I'm a tutor, so I go on this link area, and this page opens up. On the left side are criterias in which I can put in what I'm looking for in a tutoring organization. Things like location, age group. As you can see, as a tutor, for hours per week, I'm willing to put in 5 to 10 hours each week. And in importance, it's a 4, as this is very important. On the right side are the tutoring organizations that best match my criteria. As you can see, MAC Alive is the best organization for what I'm looking for, and the succeeding organizations are also very good for me. If I click on any of the Get Link buttons, it'll open up a page that will provide more information on the organization and will let me send an automated message through LYNC that initiates contact between the organization and me as a tutor. So our target market involves the 500,000 adults in Detroit. The reason why we say that is because we believe each adult has the potential to become a tutor on our site. We're focusing on all 50 to 100 organizations involved in tutoring in the city of Detroit, and we hope to ultimately help and benefit the 200,000 children under the age of 18 in this city. For our value proposition, we're offering assistance with the recruiting tutors, advertising organizations to tutors, and providing background checks to make sure that these organizations are getting the best tutors possible. Essentially what we do is we take off the administrative burden that tutoring organizations go through in order to obtain tutors. This takes away time, energy, and money and that they can invest in other areas. For sustainability, we're applying as a 501c3 nonprofit. Our demographics are going to be tutoring organizations and tutors. And based on a market assessment where we've asked tutoring organizations in Detroit how much they'd be willing to pay, the price point has been between $25 to $50 per tutor that they recruit. And then we got $33 from our own expenses, as it costs $30 to $80 for us to create a match between a tutor and an organization. So for a competitive landscape, our biggest competition comes from Catchafire, a standard search engine, and Idealist. The problem comes in when they're not customizable. A search engine does not foster communication, and neither Catchafire or Idealist are self-directed, whereas we are.
So our project timeline, we're looking for a launch of the fall of 2018. This gives us a year and a half to continue doing market assessment, build our credibility as a platform as we recruit and retain both tutoring organizations and tutors. This means interviewing the tutoring organizations, working with local schools of education to attract tutors to be on the site. In addition, we will have a $500 grant from the Zell-Lurie Institute through the Dare to Dream program that will help us initiate our startup costs and start planning and actually taking off an advertising campaign to make LYNC a reality in the fall of 2018. The diversity of our team is our greatest strength. Between the 5 of us, we have 20 years of experience in education across 7 different states. We also represent 6 different organizations from across the country and 3 schools across the University of Michigan. To bring it back to Charles Johns and Mac Development in Detroit, when we originally started this project, we wanted to solve for a gap in literacy in students in Detroit. Ultimately, what we found is organizations and people like Charles who are already doing the work on the ground, who are deeply committed to enhancing the experience and the achievement of students throughout Detroit. And so what LYNC is not only a platform to connect tutoring organizations and tutors to each other, it's also a movement to increase agency and access for tutoring organizations and for students to achieve at the highest levels possible. Thank you.
Early on, you said that 500,000, your target audience is 500,000 residents for Detroit. And then in your timeline, you said the goal is to try to recruit from local universities. So can you speak more? Who is your target audience of tutors? The people who live in the community, or students, others who really don't live there, who are there for a particular reason?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I just speak loudly. So when we initially started this work,
Use the mic.
thank you. When we initially started this work, our target market was mainly focused on schools of education because that's a very stable access at the point of a source of tutors for us. But what we found too is that there's a lot of people in Detroit that want to become tutors and just don't even know how to start that process. So one of our major partners is schools of education, but as Kate kind of referenced at the end, we want this to be part of a larger movement that also gets people in the door of tutoring that might not be tutors in the first place. So it's our main target market is these schools, but we'd also like to expand to people outside of official schools of education or universities.
Do you think, have you had access to the best available inventory of other groups that are already trying to provide tutors or encourage tutors in Detroit? I know there's a lot of tutoring activity that goes on in Detroit and in other cities.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. So a lot of what happens in Detroit, and having worked there as a teacher for 4 years, a lot of what happens is through word of mouth. So when we first did our customer discovery, we went on Google, right? And we found a list of all these organizations, but what you'll find is that they're not all there because a lot of what's happening in Detroit is at the grassroots level. And so you might find some of the more reputable foundations, et cetera, but you're not seeing things like Mac Alive, which is right down the street from the school that I worked at. And so it's really important, one, that we utilize the resources available to us through search engines, but also that we were on the ground actually visiting these organizations and talking to them about who's down the street that we don't know about and isn't on Google right now. And that's also part of what LYNC is here to do, is build capacity so that those grassroots organizations can really get their foot on the ground and become more reputable in the community.
So there's a substantial difference between the number of tutors and the number of students that are engaged and the actual outcomes and the educational differences. How are you going to track that? If you're going to track that, how are you going to track that? And what's that reporting mechanism look like in the relationship between sort of all the parties that are on this platform?
Okay, I can take that again. Just jumping here again. So we really talked a lot about data analysis, and something that was really hard for us in the beginning was that because they're all coming from different schools across the city, it's hard to say that this tutoring organization is the reason that this student is performing in such a way. We talked about doing pre-testing and post-testing and different metrics to figure out if the efficacy of these types of programming. It's something that we definitely want to figure out as we launch, but it's something that we didn't feel confident saying that we had a metric that could really get at this tutoring organization its causality. We could determine correlation. We could say there's a correlation between this organization and higher student achievement, but it's much more difficult empirically to determine causality. So it's something we definitely want to look toward.
And
what does your screening process look like? So if I'm a citizen, like what level of literacy or does my background need to look like to be able to qualify as a tutor?
So I think partially, some of it depends on what the tutoring organization is looking for as well. So on the platform, part of the algorithm of the website will be what is the tutoring organization looking for and how does that best match with what the experiences and the background that the tutor has. In terms of screening, we have investigated a background check mechanism that will allow the tutoring organization to see, the background of the person that is a little bit more official. But both of those things combined will help the tutoring organization make the best decision for their needs.
Also, something that I see a lot of kind of mentorship platforms struggle with is engagement. Do you guys have any mechanism of like incentivizing continued engagement amongst the tutors?
In terms of like accessing the website?
No, just like maybe I go and do a few tutor sessions. Like, how do I make sure that a tutor wants to keep coming back and engaging with my child, especially as you go in these schools where children might have people in and out of their life and they need kind of like a consistent figure. And if you don't have it now, it might just be something good to think about it, maybe incentivizing the tutors the more they come.
Yeah, I think that's part of, especially where the relationship with schools of ed comes in. A lot of schools of ed need, their students need to have 100 hours of tutoring in order to graduate from their program. And so those are really important for us because they mean that there's not going to be a high level of turnover with an organization. And so I think the more that we can build up those relationships with entities such as schools of education or organizations, the better we will see a long-standing relationship with a tutor. But it's definitely something that we should look into.
Where are you in developing your projected budget for developing whatever materials you need to, the connectivity, technology, and and personnel to operate it over time?
Right. So let's first tackle the technology based on connections in Silicon Valley and coders who spoke with throughout this process. A platform can range anywhere from $10,000 to $70,000 to develop. We took the short end and assumed a $10,000 fee to develop it. In terms of personnel, we assumed that there'd be 30 personnel hours per month, paid at a minimum wage of $12 per hour to get around a $4,300 fee per year. Personnel, that seems low, but the sustainability of our model is that a lot of Parth will be staying. We all will graduate. Parth will stay behind and finish his degree. And so not only will there will be some paid personnel, but the model also relies on undergrad volunteers as well.
Free is good.
Free is always good.
The University of Michigan's good at that.
What about quality control? I think whether you get the tutors from the Adelson community or young millennials who want to do good after they've made money all day, what do you do with the issue of quality control to assure your funders, your backers, whoever they are, that it's worth the effort?
So the background process is really important to us. These tutors are going to be working with children, so we want to make sure that we have the most reputable people in the business there. So our background check, it includes 10 years of criminal history and maiden names and known aliases. That's the package deal that we looked into because we want to make sure that we're not putting people in the doors of tutoring organizations that shouldn't be around children. And I think this plays into your question earlier about making sure too that they are at a level that the tutoring organization is looking for. A lot of our platform is built on relationships. It's people like Charles that we call on the phone and we talk to them or we go visit them. And so if we find a certain problem emerging with a specific tutor, let's say, that's something that we as the kind of proprietors of this will have to move forward with in making sure that that tutor follows up with us.
So the matching algorithm, I think a lot of it looks like it's around timing and stuff like that, but I would attend to what are the uniqueness of the programs and the uniqueness of what people are looking for, such that the matches aren't just based on, okay, what's available from 2 to 5, and that does math, but really something about the vision of the organization, because if people are spending their time, oftentimes you're looking for places that match the vision and mission. to what they're doing.